became aware to me yesterday it was being filmed and I forgot. Is there any way that I can ask to not be filmed?
Please be seated, everyone. Just waiting for my order to get back. Case number A781255, Harris versus Del Casal. Counsel, any matter, he's coming before the court before we get our jury in here. Oh, that's what that's. Oh, in regards to that also, Mr. Needham, you're worried about that as far as the AV Rule 3.7. Here's the statement that the multiple departments and multiple jurisdictions have laid. The advocate witness rule, which is 3.7, does not apply to pro se lawyer litigants. That's the statement that was being held at. So the second that he is a litigant, the advocate witness rule no longer applies.
Yeah, I'd like to look into that because I had,
Multiple cases.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. I just wasn't sure if it was, they made this pre-trial versus trial distinction, but you're saying that even applies to trial.
Basically what it flat out says is that if you look in the ABA Rule 3.7, it even says,
All the comments?
it says that advocate witness rule
I'll
does
take a
not
look
apply
at
to
the
pro
comments.
se.
Thank you.
All right, I'm just one juror, we're gonna go in the back and make a phone call, see if we can find out where they're at.
Hey, Your Honor, I do have a question while you're.
Sure.
You mentioned about exhibits, and we of course got into the timeliness of disclosure and follow the rules on that. And then you mentioned something about public records, like court records, for example. One item, yes, it was a photograph of just the building of equal rights where it's filed. We thought it'd be helpful so the jury can get a perspective of what we're talking about. And actually, one photo I think we showed Mr. Cam Harris was from his own website, from the website of equal rights. And Kurt had his cell phone as well, and popped his cell phone up with his cell phone when he put it on display. So this is like what I would think would be a public record. It's non-disputable. It's of their own business and it's on their Facebook page. So is that?
I think you've already that exhibit and showing the face of the building. I think we established at least a time frame. That's my only issue is what time it was taken.
Our issue was they never disclosed it, Your Honor. I think the second one is they're pursuing this route or they think there's some kind of a rule that says you have to have your name on the door. And I don't know what rule they're citing or what law they're trying to cite.
There is no rule that says you have to.
I've never heard of such a thing.
They're just making a statement that there was no name of any attorney on the office. That's just apparent. The question is there any rule that requires that? No.
I've never seen it.
Walk across the street right there, the biggest building on 301 East Clark, which I occupied for 20 years, didn't have the name of anybody on it, and right now it's the building for the district attorney's office. So the question is do you have to have your name on the door?
I've never heard of such a thing.
We're not even arguing that.
I don't even know why they've been arguing.
All they're arguing is the fact is that when the person walked in there was no name on the door. It's a statement of fact, counsel.
Perfectly. And so, I mean, trying to bring in some kind of picture to try and mislead or misguide the jury into thinking that there is some rule that you have to put your name on the door is inappropriate. And they should have disclosed it if they wanted to.
We're not going to say that there's any legal requirement. I don't think we've ever said that in any of our papers. So.
As far as the picture of the door and utilization of that, I'll allow that in because basically the witness yesterday said, yeah, that looks like the front of the door, and that's what I went through all the time. Found the foundation, but basically, counsels, if we're talking about exhibits that were never displayed, I think we've talked about this multiple times now. If you, in fact, believe that you have appropriately listed these exhibits and provided them to the other side, you better have that proof ready. Because if they make an objection that it was never disclosed, and you can't show me, like I said yesterday and the day before that, if you can't show me that it was disclosed properly, it's not coming in.
I understand that. What I'm saying is I don't believe these photos were, I think they were relatively, I don't think they were timely. I mean, what my point was that they were public record and based on, that's where I'm going from this.
Just a photograph of the front of the building, whether or not I can take judicial notice of a photograph.
That's where I'm going.
The problem is, counsel, who's gonna lay the foundation? Who took the photograph? When was it taken?
We need some more foundation.
If you get the foundation to get it in, that's a different story. I may entertain that because of the fact that it is in fact visible. But you're not gonna get in exhibits that you didn't disclose that are not done properly.
And whether it's a public record or not, you still have to disclose a public record, Judge. I mean, that's our objection, is that they're pulling all this in now. And I know you understand this, but you should have disclosed it. You want to use it.
It's simple. They're saying they disclosed it. I'm saying if you make the objection, Your Honor, this was not disclosed, I turn to them and say, show me that it was disclosed properly. If they cannot show me that it was disclosed properly, it does not come in. Now, there is different things in regards to as far as judicial records. For example, you do not have to list interrogatories if you want to utilize them as exhibits. That's not a requirement. You don't have to list documents that were done in this case as far as interrogatories, request to produce. All of that automatically comes in. You don't have to list that as an exhibit. Okay?
So,
We all know the rules, guys.
So we have a photograph here of the place. Assuming their position is true that it wasn't timely disclosed, should we even read it?
If it wasn't timely disclosed and you can't prove that it was timely disclosed, don't even try to lay the foundation because it's not coming in.
Okay, that's what I'm gonna get to.
It wasn't timely.
We're gonna do it now versus during,
Yeah.
that's why I brought this
So I
up.
brought it, like we said this, if it was not properly disclosed.
Okay, I heard it out, I was talking about the public record being the nature of their own storefront. So still, being their storefront is not coming in.
No, it's not coming in.
Okay.
You still have to lay the foundation of who took it, when it was taken.
Okay, I want to clarify that, thank you.
That picture could have been taken in 1970 or whatever.
Glad I brought it up now versus when everyone's in here, right? Like 1970. Probably was.
That's what I was heard, it was pretty close to that time period.
We're all here.
All right, fantastic, bring them in. The counsels and witnesses, make sure that, you might understand, we're in a small courtroom, if you start making grunts and groans or statements out of turn when people are making statements on the witness stand, jury can hear it. Okay, I'm hearing a lot of rustling and mumbling and grumbling being done while witnesses are testifying. You might want to take that at a cautionary motion that the jury can hear absolutely everything that's said, especially in the well. That's why it's the same level as them, they can hear it. So just cautionary, you might want to talk to your parties and make sure they understand this.
All rise for the presence of the jury. All jurors are present.
Counsel, stipulate the presence of the jury.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Mr. Harris, Pam Harris, you're still in the stand. Please present yourself. No. Mr. Harris, I'll remind you, you're still under oath. Thank you. Please be seated. Counsel, your witness.
Yeah, please, court again.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. So, can you tell the jury exactly how the actual event went with defendant Del Casal leaving the premises?
Sure. On or about December 31st, 2015, that would be the last business day of the year of 2015. We conducted a normal business day. At the end of that business day, there was very little ceremony to Mr. Del Casal leaving. I think he wanted it that way. He handed me the keys and just made a simple comment that he'd see me around.
Had everything begun to go smooth after that time?
Lots of changes in the office, yes, but smooth is not the word I would use.
What kind of changes occurred?
Immediately upon starting the 2016 business year, January 2nd, excuse me for the pause, Your Honor, it became aware to me yesterday I was being filmed and I forgot. Is there any way that I can ask to not be filmed?
He's not being filmed.
Counsel, what's it? It shouldn't be me.
He's not.
Yeah, I think you were.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. So on or around January 2nd, 2016, I started the business year as the new office manager. At that time, that first morning, we had a meeting with everyone that was still in the office, which included the following: Scott Caterer, George Boyer, and Arturo Sorosa. And the four of us had a meeting on things that would be changing immediately. And a few of those things, first and foremost, you may hear more testimony about this later, was that there would no longer be what Mr. Del Casal referred to as skirt alerts. We would no longer be chasing women off the premises. That was not okay. We didn't agree with that. And I'm well aware that that's just a bad business practice. I'm aware that.
Go ahead, talk.
I'm just gonna object as to relevance and get into the prior acts as you mentioned a moment ago. I don't know if
Counsel,
there's
what's
any relevance.
relevant?
It's wholly relevant to the events that led up to the publication of this, publication, for which we're here. Mr. Splita talked about that yesterday, about he's angry upon the departure, and that's what led up to this.
Your Honor, may I say, this was a men's health group, men's club that they purchased.
Okay, counsel, so what's your objection? You're making a statement now. What's your objection? Relevance is your
Relevance
objection.
and prejudice.
Overruled. Continue.
Okay, so we stopped that, and like I said, just as a as a good business practice, I'm well aware that a lot of times moms, girlfriends, new wives are these fathers' biggest support system. They're the ones that are there, sometimes financially supporting them as well. It made no sense to continue to do that and to belittle those people in that way. So that was one of the things we stopped. One of the other major things that we changed as well, during my first year with Mr. Del Casal, cash and money order were the only forms of payment accepted ever. And that changed. We immediately, from that day, started accepting credit card and debit card transactions, as well as cash and money orders as well. Basically any form of valid payment. And so we had some discussions about that that morning. I let the office know that since we were transferring to a law office, we would no longer be taking membership dues or membership fees. I knew that wasn't okay and that needed to stop. And those are some immediate changes that were talked about and dealt with that first morning.
Did you encounter any problems after that?
Absolutely, almost immediately. Within a couple of weeks, the city showed up at my office to inform me that there was no business license at the office. I had not been made aware that Ernest had immediately run out and canceled the business license and then informed them that we were operating without a business license. That was not something that we did on purpose. I assumed that the business license was still in place, and that was resolved within a week. There was no repercussions on us. There were no issues. That was just something that we were not made aware of. And also, within those first couple of weeks, Ernest went on our company's Facebook page and posted about his retirement and then advertised his new company, his child support helpline, with his phone number, stated that it was no longer a men's rights organization, that it was now a law office run by my dad and me, and made that comment on the Facebook page within a couple of weeks. And that triggered my initial thought that I better start monitoring online traffic.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness with a proposed exhibit 73?
Go ahead.
Let me see the exhibit, Judge.
Great. Did you see the exhibit?
Yep, I need to see what he's giving to his,
Okay,
I
hold on a
need
second.
to see what he's giving to
Okay,
his.
so let's get a copy of it first. That's different than saying you didn't receive it.
Yeah.
You received this electronically, correct?
And
you
the-
verify
I
that?
didn't know what it was getting into the witness.
Okay, so he's shown you a copy of exhibit 73. Do you have an
Yeah,
objection?
this was one of those new exhibits that was proposed like 5 days ago. So it's just disclosed, and I'm surprised Mr. Harris would produce it here.
Well, I haven't produced it, Your Honor. I've actually showed it to the witness. It was late disclosed, Your Honor, which I will admit. And I do believe it was disclosed in discovery, which I will run down that supplemental case. At this point, I've just asked him to look at it.
Okay, all we're doing is looking at it right now. It's not being admitted into evidence.
Is that a copy of the posting that you just referred to?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And you saw that post a few weeks after we took over,
Correct.
and it's your testimony that Defendant Del Casal indicated that he had opened up another enterprise, I guess, is that correct?
Correct.
Was that consistent with what he previously told you?
No, absolutely not. Like I stated yesterday, all he ever talked about was wanting to retire, about starting his goat farm, about going away and being done, that he had done his time, that he had put in enough years and didn't want to deal with it anymore. So this was the polar opposite of what he had explained to us previously.
Did you encounter any future problems?
Yeah, this was just the beginning. From there, I started noting false and fake reviews online on sites such as Yelp, Facebook, Better Business Bureau, Google reviews, and all these places I started noticing these negative reviews pop up. And I was able to confirm that they were negative reviews in several ways. First and foremost, since the day I have taken over, have kept an exact database of every person that has ever filled out an information application in our office. I can search that by name. None of these people showed up in my database as previous clients, and I did have the previous year's applications. Nothing prior to that, as I previously stated, that had all been destroyed, but I did have the previous year's applications, and I would sift through those, and I would look for those, and I never found any of these fake or false reviews to be actual clients of the office. I then went through the very, we'll call it steep learning curve of learning how to remove these reviews, because it's different for each one of these websites. One in specific that I remember was a fake review on Yelp from a JC, or Honest J. Castle, as previously stated yesterday, one of the many alter egos that Ernest was known to use, commenting about how this was no longer a father's rights organization, that we were out to steal money, and I reached out to Yelp. I first had to, sorry, let me rewind just a little bit just to give you some understanding. I first had to go in and establish myself and my dad as the business owners with all of these organizations. I had to reach out to Yelp. I had to verify that we were the business owners by providing business licenses and showing proof of ownership. I had to do that with Facebook. I had to do that with Google. I had to do that with Better Business Bureau. And I had to do these things at different times throughout the process, but it was a learning curve and I was working through it. Anyways, I would reach out to these companies. I would notify them that these were fake reviews. I would show them the evidence I had to support that. And the majority of the time they would be removed, except for Facebook. Facebook was, in a sense, kind of a beast to deal with. I could never get things removed from Facebook, and that just picked up and increased more and more.
Now, was there a Facebook account for the business?
There was.
What happened to our Facebook account?
Eventually, that Facebook account and our Google listing, I believe in September of 2018, were hijacked. They were taken over and they were used to redirect all business traffic from our office. To give you some background, I had come in that week on or about September 11th, plus or minus a couple of days, I can't remember the exact date. And I came in that week, started my normal business week. At this point, I had made it a regular part of my weekly routine. Mondays, I would spend roughly 2 hours scouring the internet for fake reviews. I had had so many of them up until that point in time that it was part of my weekly routine to come in on Monday mornings and deal with fake reviews. Spend time on the phone, spend time in emails, getting these reviews removed. Anyways, I came in that week, started my normal routine. Week carried on, and the office was eerily quiet. I would say we probably, at that time, averaged somewhere between 3 to 5 phone calls an hour. The phones were silent. Averaged probably, a minimum of 5 to 10 new applicants a day. Didn't have it. And after a couple of days of that, I knew that there had to have been a problem. I just didn't know what it was. This was not normal. This wasn't just a normal quiet period. It seemed like everything had all of a sudden just come to a screeching halt. And so it caused me to investigate, and I went searching. I went on Google, and the first thing I see on Google is an image under the business listing. I type in equal rights for divorced father, and under the business listing, I see an image that says equal rights with a huge red X through it, and I knew something was wrong.
Your Honor, may I approach to get the book of evidence for the witness?
Go ahead.
So I'm going to ask you to look at Exhibit 17, which I believe is stipulated to, Your Honor.
Get that? Exhibit 17. Counsel for the defendant, has this been stipulated to? (17-001, 002, and 003).
I don't think Ms. Anderson has seen it, but I think I know what they're referring to. I don't believe co-counsel has seen it. I think it's a one-page Google listing. I think that's it there.
I actually have 3 pages under 17, counsel.
Is there 3? Oh, I got here Google listing. It does say 3 right down the Google page. It just says Google page and it 3 date stamps on it. I
You
believe
have
it
those
says-
3 base stamps in front of you. Have we stipulated this into evidence?
I don't have an objection. I'm just showing the
I don't have an objection.
Okay. By stipulation, Exhibit 17 is hereby introduced into evidence. Go ahead, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Son, is that a true and correct, accurate depiction of what you saw
It absolutely is.
Okay, and what about that did you find to be of note?
Specifically in the bottom right corner, you'll notice the part that says equal rights for divorced fathers. This is a black and white printout, but you can see the X through it. If it were in color, it would have been red. That was a huge blaring indication to me that something was very wrong. Obviously, that is not something I would put on my own Google business listing. I would not want people, I mean, as a natural human being, you see a red X and it causes concern. That is not something that I would post of my own business. That would not obviously be a smart business practice for myself to do.
Okay. And that was in color, is that correct?
It was.
So if I show you I guess half of a copy, it looks something more like
Absolutely.
like that?
It looked exactly like that.
Okay. And that was on our Google landing page, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And you thought something was wrong?
Absolutely. I knew something was wrong. And it actually, as soon as I saw that, I immediately started clicking. Like I said, I had spent roughly 2 years dealing with this consistent online attack. So I started clicking, and I clicked on the website link that you'll see just above that, which is a hyperlink that would normally go to our website. Our website, since I took over, was 702dads.com.
Now this is the hyperlink, is that correct?
Correct.
Right there with the pen?
Yes.
Okay, and there's a box there,
Yes.
and you click on that and what?
And I clicked on that, and it took me to equalrightsfordivorcedfathers.com, which is the old website that we had down and we're not using. And it opened up a manifesto, to call it, against our office. And it redirected all traffic to that. It redirected it away from our actual online website.
Did you have an opportunity to review the material that was there on that, I guess that website that you found at the end of our hyperlink?
I did. Like any normal human being, clicked it, the hyperlink opened to this new web page with that image at the top, and I immediately began reading the content of this page that obviously from the get-go immediately started talking negatively about our office. And I'll never forget the first line that said, "the truth," and about Attorney Kurt Harris and equal rights for divorced fathers.
And why did that line stick out to you?
Because everything that came after that was the exact opposite of the truth. That's quite the statement to make about somebody, to jump online and say the truth. I feel it's very strong, and everything that came after it was the exact opposite of the truth.
And just by way of, if you were to go online today, sorry, I'm having trouble there. Is this more of what it is supposed to look like?
Correct.
Okay. And is this essentially an up-to-date, what it looked like before it was taken over?
Absolutely.
Do you know who took it over?
I did eventually find out who took it over. Basically what happened is that day when I realized that, I immediately contacted my dad by phone. He was not available. He was at a conference, I believe. And so I then immediately sent him an email with a screenshot of that, letting him know what was going on. And then I immediately started the process of contacting Google. I had previously dealt with false Google reviews. And I immediately contacted Google to inform them of the issue. And they informed me that somebody else had claimed ownership of the Google listing and had made those changes, and that I would need to then reach out to them and request ownership of the page, which I immediately did.
Did they tell you who it was?
After a certain period of time, I was provided with an email that I believe was attached to Mr. Franklin.
And just for the jury's sake here, is this our, here at the top there, is that our website?
Absolutely.
Okay. And that's the website that it should have gone to?
Yes.
So if we were to go there based on this hyperlink, is that what we would
That's what should have opened.
That's what we should have seen.
Correct.
Okay. But instead, we saw what is Exhibit 2.
Should I go to exhibit 2?
Well, no,
Okay,
well,
yeah.
let's, yeah, please look at Exhibit 2.
Okay.
And while you're looking at that, son, were you able to get the hyperlink reversed and put back on the legal and lawful website?
Yes, that process took roughly a couple of weeks to get through. There were multiple emails back and forth. I had to email the supposed owner. I then had to go through an email correspondence with Google where I provided the business license, I believe a copy of a business card, and to show them that we were the actual true and correct owners. And after that couple week period, they did then turn over the Google business listing to us again so that I could then gain control of it. One thing I want to emphasize, it didn't mean that the site went down. It just means that I was able to gain control of the Google listing and change it back to what it had previously been, which was the 702dads.com.
Do you have any idea when this site went down, their actual site?
From my recollection, the site was up until attempts of service on Mr. Del Casal. Once he was served, then the site went down, but not until then. And I know from Mr. Del Casal's deposition, he claims to know nothing about it, but from my opinion, it seems ironic.
What's your objection, Counselor?
Somebody needs to give his opinion. He's not an expert witness. He's asking about factual situations.
Sustained.
So you went and you were able to look at Exhibit 2, is that correct?
Correct,
And you have that there in front of you?
I do.
Anything about Exhibit 2 that really stood out to you that you can think of here today?
The top that says equal rights for divorced fathers, Kurt Harris, and the truth. Learn the truth.
And let me just show you that there. That's what
Has this been admitted into evidence?
it's been stipulated to, Your Honor.
Okay, so number 2 has been stipulated into evidence, Counsel?
Yes.
Okay, number 2 is stipulated into evidence. Go ahead, Counsel, you now may publish it to the jury.
Thank you, Your Honor. So that's where you indicated that it said learn the truth.
Correct, and just above that, and the truth. Equal rights for divorced fathers, Kurt Harris, and the truth.
Okay. And is truth the opinion?
No,
Okay. And Mr. Franklin, is he a customer of ours? Is he a client?
in years past, absolutely, he'd been a customer and client of ours.
You ever been a client of mine?
No,
Okay.
never.
Would he have any basis to render any opinion whatsoever about me?
None. He had never been in the office since I had taken over.
So any of this couldn't possibly be his opinion, could it?
Absolutely not, and nor would he know half of the information that's included in it.
So, and down below is the icon.
Yes.
That Mr. Franklin created. You see that there?
I do.
And that was in bold color, is that correct?
Correct, it was.
And then he put it on the internet, and he put that on, did he put that on any other websites?
He did. At the same time that the website was posted, a second Facebook page was also made for the office that included this same website information with the same logo, the same information, and posted on Facebook as Equal Rights for Divorced Fathers. And that was also something that I had to gain control of. I had to prove ownership of the business, take control of that secondary Facebook page that was titled Equal Rights for Divorced Fathers, and then shut that down.
And you're able to get all those things done, is that correct?
Eventually, yes.
How long did it take you to recall?
Initially, with the web page and the Facebook page, roughly 2 weeks.
Okay. And was there anything else about the publication that I guess that stood out to you?
Absolutely. First and foremost, after having spent 2 years removing fake reviews, there were certain language cues that I started to key in on that became very familiar to me. 33 years, 85,000 cases, no longer a father's rights organization, all things that you'll find in this webpage and in previous false reviews, the same language, and even more so, ironic, the same language that was used in a bar complaint filed by Mr. Del Casal against my father.
And you're aware of that bar complaint, is that correct?
I am aware of that bar
You had an
complaint.
opportunity to read and review that bar
I
complaint?
did,
And the content of that bar complaint, does that look similar to what this publication says?
very much so.
Okay. As far as the 33 years and I believe 85,000 fathers, have you ever seen that before?
Absolutely, repeatedly. Mr. Del Casal, there was a few things that he liked to repeat often to show success of the office, the time period that he had built and run the company, and the number of fathers that he had supposedly assisted over those years. He frequently quoted 33 years, frequently quoted 85,000 fathers, and from almost the time he left, recalling back to that previous Facebook post where he stated that it is no longer a father's rights organization, he was very quick to use that term frequently and often. And I even found that term in other false and fake reviews.
And as we move on in the publication, you recognize that guy?
Yeah, that's you.
Oh my gosh, Sean. Do you know where that came from?
I believe that photo was taken from your NCH profile.
Okay. And what's an NCH profile?
Nevada Corporate Headquarters is a company that me and my dad both work for. I sometimes draft trusts for them. He is their legal in-house counsel.
You familiar with the folks at Nevada Corporate Headquarters?
Very, very much so.
They're very happy to see their photograph look like this?
No.
Okay.
And this is their photo.
And, Mr. Frank got permission to exploit my image?
Objection.
Absolutely not.
Call on. What's the objection, Counselor?
This is the term of exploiting my image.
Are you saying it's basically a legal conclusion, Counselor?
Yes, yes.
Sustained.
You have any idea if Mr. Franklin got my permission to post my picture with his graphics on the internet for the world to see?
He did not.
Objection. Move this trial. How do you know that?
How do I know that? Because I talked to him every day.
We're not going to go back and forth, that's cross-examination.
All right.
Overruled. Go ahead and answer.
I know that because I talk to him every day, and I know that Mr. Franklin never received permission to use this photo from my dad or from Nevada Corporate Headquarters at any time.
And do you know how Mr. Defendant Del Casal, I guess, refers to himself?
Yes, founder and director of Equal Rights for Divorced Fathers, which you'll notice frequently in his postings and all over the internet, and in this. These are terms that most normal people don't use to refer to themselves as. I did see Mr. Del Casal use that often,
Anybody else use those terms?
not that I'm aware of,
You ever hear anybody ever use those terms for Mr. Del Casal?
aside from Sheila, no.
Now, it says there in this publication that many fathers apparently sought assistance and were just met with disappointment and despair. Have you had an opportunity to review some of these statements?
I have, and I find this slightly ironic. Right now, currently, we have a 4.3 out of 5-star review on Google on 111 reviews. 90% of those reviews came after Mr. Del Casal's leaving the office. We have a 4 out of 5-star rating on Yelp. Once again, similar percentages of the number of reviews that came after Mr. Del Casal left the office. So for people that are so upset and put off by the service that they received at my office, the numbers seem to tell otherwise.
Have you heard from any of them personally?
Never.
Do you know who these many mythical fathers are?
Absolutely not, because none of them have ever approached me and I've never talked to any of them.
Do you even know if they really are clients of our office?
I don't, and like I've previously stated, with all the fake reviews that we received, I first and foremost check those with our applications. And just so you're aware, we don't speak to anybody in the office without them first filling out an information application. So to have received any help from the office at all, they would have first had to have filled out an application. And so I would have known if any sort of help or assistance had been provided to that person.
So if somebody refers to fill out an application, giving us their information, might they be turned away?
Potentially.
Okay. And could that account for maybe one of their father friends that they've referred to here in this?
Potentially. Just to give an example, if somebody were to come in and I'm not able to help them, I might refer them somewhere else. And people aren't always happy with that.
It seems angry that fees doubled and tripled. Is that?
Leading question, objection.
Sustained.
Thank you. Here, do you see here in the, that it says here that no, what do we say here? No more attorneys who cared about helping fathers? Do you see that line?
I do.
Is that a true statement?
Absolutely not. we still, to this day, do our absolute best to help fathers, men and fathers only. The attorneys do their absolute best to help these men and fathers gain access to their children and to have that opportunity to be dads. It is paramount concern for us every single day to do the best that we can to help any person be a dad.
Did any attorneys that we associated with change?
No.
Are they all the same as they were when Mr. Del Casal was there as they are?
Correction, I make one correction on that. The only change is Mr. Kerry Doyle. All the others are the same. My dad, Oliver Melgar, and Jordan Garcia.
And any other individuals that were there?
Mr. Saplita for years until his retirement.
It also states here that, I guess there was no more advocating on behalf of fathers. I'm not sure, do you find that to be true?
No, I don't, and I find it kind of ironic. As far as I know, my office is the only place in town that caters specifically to men and fathers to help them get through the legal system. We're it. There is no other place, to my knowledge.
What about here at the bottom where it says, instead fathers found fees doubled and tripled almost overnight? Is there any truth to that?
Not at all. If you calculate the amount of fees that they paid on a complaint under Mr. Del Casal, an initial complaint cost them $100, and I think by the time when I took over, it was $125. So a difference of $25. I'm pretty sure that's not doubled or tripled.
And this graphic here, if you, I don't know if you see that.
Absolutely.
Okay. And it was brought up yesterday by Defendant Franklin's counsel that this would hurt my feelings, I guess. Does that hurt your feelings?
It doesn't hurt my feelings at all. It kind of makes me laugh because once again, I find every bit of information about this website to be the exact opposite of what you actually find in the office.
It says there on that line there on the top, Cam, according to this website, that the once not-for-profit is an organization. Was that organization ever not-for-profit?
No,
So it's always been a for-profit organization?
absolutely.
So this just would be a false statement?
Correct.
Okay. It says there it became an expensive and all about the money typing service. Do you see that right there?
I do.
Anything interesting about that language?
It mirrors bar complaints and previous fake reviews of Mr. Del Casal's third-rate typist, overrated typing service, expensive typing service, all things that have been previously alluded to in previous postings and writings from Mr. Del Casal.
Do you use the word typing in your normal day-to-day speaking?
Never.
Did you ever learn to type in your life?
Yes, a very long time ago in middle school.
And what do they call it now?
I believe they call it drafting.
Okay. Do you know who uses that language of typing?
Yes, I was frequently accustomed to Mr. Del Casal using that language.
Okay. It says there that we're using the long-time good reputation and the good name of ERDF. Do you believe that it was a good reputation, a good name, at the time that you took over?
It was a good name, but I can also promise and guarantee that I have made it better. We, in the first year that I was there, the countless number of clients that I watched Mr. Del Casal scream, yell at, and run off the premises, the countless number of clients that were turned away by his vulgar and violent outbursts against his wife, that stopped. That stopped January 2nd, 2016 when I took over. Yes, it became more of a business atmosphere, but in a good way. People were respected. People were taken care of. They were not subject to that kind of verbal abuse.
You know, it states there that today, our firm is nothing more than an expensive typing service designed to remove you from your money. Is there any truth in that?
Once again, backwards of previous statements, I think we do an infinitely better job now through the assistance of the attorneys in the office of vetting what comes in the office. I was witness to a lot of frivolous filings prior to me taking over, and I am very quick, as we are very quick as an office, to let people know that when it's not time to do something, because we're not there to take their money. I am not gonna waste somebody's money and be the point of them losing money.
Now, it says there, it continues on in this run-on sentence there, that the office manager is the stepson of attorney Kurt Harris, and is definitely not a father's rights advocate. Is there any truth to that?
No, but the one thing that I would very clearly like to point out is the usage of the word stepson. That is not information that I openly share with anyone. That's my dad. That's what I tell people. He is technically my stepfather, but nobody knows that unless they're close to me. So I know there have been previous statements by Mr. Del Casal that he had nothing to do with this. He is the only person that would have ever known that Kurt is my actual stepfather. I do not tell that to anyone. I do not share that with anyone because he's my dad. And he is the only person that ever knew that and could have ever shared that information with the author of this document.
There's just no way that Mr. Franklin would know that.
Absolutely not.
And there's no way that his phantom could know that.
Absolutely not.
And the only one that knows that is defendant Del Casal.
Absolutely.
And did you ever see that anywhere else, in any other writings that were made?
No,
Okay.
not until this time and the bar complaint.
So you saw it in the bar complaint,
I apologize, I saw it in the bar complaint.
and that was drafted by?
Mr. Del Casal.
So it says here that these same fathers who are unidentified, do you know who any of these same fathers are down here referenced in this manifesto are?
Once again, absolutely not. None of these fathers ever approached me. I know not who they speak of.
And they say there that, the manager stepson of Kurt Harris, you receive a very large portion of the typing fees. Again, the word typing is used. Any truth to that?
No. I make $25 an hour, and I'm an employee of the office. I'm W-2, and I draft trusts to supplement my income.
Okay. There, it also goes on. Again, we're back at our business prefers to be paid in cash. True?
Absolutely not. As previously stated, one of the first things we did was open up avenues for people to pay by any means necessary. One of the things that oftentimes caused issues prior to me taking over management was that people had to pay in cash. Well, sometimes people don't have cash. So opening up that option for them to pay with a credit card or have somebody else come in and pay with a credit card for them, that option opened up a lot of doors for a lot of people.
You know what the percentage of clients are that pay cash that we have now? Are even?
So few, I couldn't even say.
Okay. And what's the most desired form of payment?
Card.
What would you say the percentage? You have any idea of the card payer?
80-20.
Okay. And what credit card company do we use, or how do we process?
Square. Square is used to process credit card payments, as well as we also have a PayPal option as well.
Would Mr. Del Casal know that?
No, because that all came after he left, and he never returned to the office after December 31st of 2015.
You mentioned Gerald Saflita. How frequently was Mr. Saflita in the office with you?
While he was working, almost daily, he would stop in, help us review documents and look over things, and all the time.
Do you have anybody else that reviews documents?
Yes, you. All drafts go to your email, and also we have immediate access to Mr. Melgar, Mr. Doyle, and Mr. Garcia, who all assist at all times.
Are there any filings that I do not see?
No.
And we have the internet, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. And we were able to communicate on the internet?
Daily.
Did you have the internet in the office before I took over?
No, there was no internet in the office. That was provided either individually by the client or by the employee. Mr. Del Casal had a phone line that he used at his desktop, dial-up line.
You have a mobile phone as well, is that correct?
Yes, I do.
Are you able to text me?
I text and call you almost daily.
Okay. And with the other people that work there, is that the same?
It's an open door policy at all times.
And when presented with legal questions, what's the process?
Immediately, they are referred to an attorney. They are given anywhere ranging from 3 to 4 attorney's cards. If anybody ever needs legal advice, they are immediately turned to an attorney.
Now, it goes on here with what counsel yesterday said was an opinion, but I kind of find it to be unkind.
Counsel,
Thank you.
questions only, please.
Where it says, instead, they meet a couple of worn out, broken down, middle-aged men, George Boyer, ex-felon, Scott Caterer, chain-smoking, toothless alcoholic. You had an opportunity to review that?
I have.
What are your thoughts on that?
I find that to be attacking. And another point of information that only Mr. Del Casal could have known, and I bring this up because I didn't even find this out until after George Boyer being a felon. Once again, this was something that happened in his youth that none of us were aware of, and only Mr. Del Casal knew. And so, yeah.
You know when I found out?
I believe at the posting of this website.
Now, are you aware if I have a bar license?
You do.
You know how long I've had it?
Don't quote me, I want to say 1997.
Are all referrals mandatorily sent to me?
Absolutely not.
People, are they given a choice of who they want to work with?
They are given a choice every single time. Multiple cards are handed out, always.
As far as the fees that attorneys charge, have those changed to your knowledge?
As far as I'm aware, it's been the same range since I worked there.
Now, are attorneys allowed to charge whatever they want to charge?
Absolutely.
As far as the paralegals go, Scott and George, do they have charging requirements?
No, they don't. They have fee ranges, but it's all based off of the work that they do. They charge by the work that they do.
And they get paid for what they do, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. So here where it says that hand-picked cases, easy ones are referred to Kurt Harris's fancy office on the west side of town on Fort Apache, is that true?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. And do they have to drive there to drop money off to me?
No, they can come to my office. If they need to, they can go to your office. There's many options to make payments. We try to make this as easy as possible for the person coming in the business.
Okay. And it's understood that we don't work for free, correct?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
For business.
But in the past, did others work for free there in that business?
Occasionally, if what I would say they were pressured to, usually by Sheila or Ernest.
Okay. It says here again, many, and have found attorney Kurt Harris and his stepson, Cam Harris, to be less than trustworthy, honest, or sincere in dealings with them and the attitude they project. Is there any truth to that?
No. Once again, who are these many? I've never met any of them. They've never come to me. I do my absolute best to make sure that everyone that walks in the door, if there's a problem, they know that they can come to me directly.
Are we untrustworthy?
Absolutely not.
Do you think we're trustworthy?
100%.
Okay. Is there any reason for anybody to think that we haven't been trustworthy?
None whatsoever. I mean, I think our record speaks for itself. You look at our positive reviews online, you look at the positive feedback we have received from clients, and the increased positive feedback we receive from clients. The fact that the attorneys that we work with don't have multiple bar complaints or disciplinary actions, I think this all speaks for honesty and honesty in work.
It says there, the next paragraph, and I'm just Curious what you feel about this, what your thoughts are, that there can be no doubt Kurt Harris and Cam Harris would gladly separate desperate fathers from their money.
You know, offense is the wrong word, but you know, it's upsetting to say that. Because I work really hard every day to make sure that people get the help they need to get through the legal system. It is very difficult for a large portion of the population to get proper legal help. And being able to provide that for them is something that I'm proud of.
It says here that we're fakes and phonies. Any truth to that?
No.
Any doubt in your mind who the author of this is?
Absolutely not.
Objection.
What's your objection, counsel?
Does he know?
Well, agriculture circulation.
Culture speculations, sustained.
Who's the author of this?
The author of this document is Ernest Del Casal, Jr.
How do you know that?
Based off-
Objection, Your Honor, it's culture speculation.
All right, now he's asking him how he knows that. I'll allow that. Go ahead.
Based off the similar languages used in these three main areas: the bar complaint, the fake reviews, and the web page itself. Listening to terms that were only ever used by Ernest in the office, then repeated in these three areas, leaves no doubt in my mind that he is the author of this web page.
You mentioned that Arturo Sorosa was there at the office.
Yes.
What happened to Arturo?
He eventually quit. Arturo was a great young man. We wanted to do our best to keep him on if he needed a job. He showed up to work. We did the best to take care of him in any way that we could. He chose to quit. After he told me he was quitting, I even went so far as to say, hey, please work until you find a new job, because I found out that he didn't have a new job yet. I wanted to make sure that he had some source of income until his new job began. I knew that he needed it. I am not in the business of hurting people. I care about my employees. I want to take care of them the best that I'm able to. So.
Was he a part of this publication?
No, interestingly enough, he was always left out of this publication and left out of, I believe, the bar complaint as well.
Is that significant?
It is. It raises some questions. Some history that I'm aware of with Arturo. Arturo grew up playing on soccer teams that were sponsored or coached by Ernest Del Casal and his wife Sheila. He referred to them as grandma and grandpa in the office. He would go up after hours, work at their house to make some extra money, things like that. So there was a very strong connection to Ernest that I was always concerned about, but I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. I did not want him out on the street without a job. And I wanted to make sure that he had that opportunity to have gainful employment.
How much time do you estimate that you have expended in putting a stop to this publication?
Hundreds of hours. If you figure that I spent anywhere from 2 hours plus on a weekly basis from 2016 until 2018, until this was filed and served, hundreds of hours were spent dealing with this, and it was draining at times, but it was part of my routine. The amazing thing is that from the time Mr. Del Casal was served, it has stopped. I do not have to deal with fake reviews online anymore. I do not have to spend hours each week scouring the internet for fake reviews, because it has almost 100% stopped. In fact, I think it has 100% stopped since he was served. This case has gone on for a long time. We're coming up on 4 years, but I am also coming up on 4 years of peaceful office business, which has been wonderful. And I do find it very ironic that somebody that claims they had nothing to do with it, that everything went silent the second he was served.
Are you aware of any other individual on the face of the planet who would have any motive to make this publication?
None.
And so how many hours total do you estimate?
If you do 2 hours a week times 52 weeks a year, that's 104 hours a year, 208 hours in the first 2 years. And I still check at least once a week for 15 to 20 minutes, just to be sure, because it was such a habit.
So it'd be 208 hours by times 25, is that correct?
Correct.
And $5,200 sounds pretty accurate, maybe, for what salary time that you have put into trying correcting this problem into.
Absolutely. If you were to calculate it based off salary time, you're looking at $5,000 to $5,500 in time spent at work when I should be doing other things. I can't calculate the opportunities, other opportunities.
Let me ask you about that. How many people do you normally do we take in a week?
In a week, we average sign-ins in a range of 20 to 30 a day. So you're looking at roughly 150 a week.
And over the course of that client's time with us, what do you estimate the costs are that the firm lost as a result of that 20 or so a week? Is that, or how many is that, 150 a week?
150 a week.
Okay, and it, just on average, how many do you convert into clients?
From applications that come in, on average, I would say roughly, probably 75% are converted into clients.
And of those numbers, I guess in business language, what's the amount of lost profits over the course of the life of a client, you estimate?
Over the entire life of a client, if they were to go from start to finish, you're looking at a lost revenue of somewhere between $4,000 to $6,000, including attorney's fees, cost of document preparation, all of that.
And you would estimate that on how many individuals?
In a week, if 150 people come in, I would say each day, probably half are new applications. So 15 a day, 100 or so new applications a week. Let's call it 75 people a week at roughly $4,000 to $6,000.
So 75 people, say at an average of $5,000 over the life of that client. $375,000.
Correct.
And how many of these lost opportunities for how many weeks do you think that went on while this website was up?
There's at least the week that it went on while it was up that I'm aware of. I can't even begin to calculate the amount of damages that would have been incurred in the years prior, dealing with all the fake reviews and the people that might have been turned away by that. And if I'm going even farther, you start calculating the amount of time that was spent even just to litigate this case. Attorney's fees in the tune of, $150,000, $200,000. This starts adding up real quick.
And you know if Mr. Franklin is admitted to the publication?
He's admitted to publishing it.
And do you believe that's a true and accurate calculation of the damages that the firm has suffered as a result of this publication?
To my best guess, yes.
I have no further questions. Thanks so much, son.
Thank you. Ross?
Good morning, Mr. Harris. I have a few, just some questions I'd like to clarify.
Sure.
Thank you. I'm going to try and go in chronological order from
Hold on a
yesterday.
second, Councilman.
I'm going to try to go in chronological order from yesterday.
Okay.
So you began by talking, or early in your testimony, you began by mentioning some sort of smear campaign, and you mentioned some names. I think you said Gail Nathan, and then can you repeat those names that you said? Gail
Absolutely. People that I was witness to Ernest go after: Gail Nathan, Lisa Brown, Chris Aaron.
Do you know what Gail Nathan's capacity or her job was, or who?
At the time, she was a family court judge.
Thanks. You mentioned something about Ernest Del Casal. The lawsuit in question mentioned some terms against Mr. Casal, like creating fake accounts, do you remember? And I mentioned that in my opening statement, and I suppose, did Mr. Harris tell you about that, about those statements that I mentioned in the opening statement?
I'm not understanding your question, Mr.
I'm
Needham,
sorry, let me repeat that. There were some phrases that we talked about yesterday, fake accounts, alter egos.
Yes,
Remember that?
correct.
I mentioned that in the opening statement. You didn't hear those from me, correct?
The alter egos?
Right,
No, I found those myself,
okay.
and I heard them repeated several times from Mr. Del Casal himself.
You mentioned fake accounts. You mentioned that Mr. Del Casal had fake accounts. Where are those fake accounts? Can you describe those?
Sure, I'll list one specifically. I apologize that I forgot to mention this. About the same time that the online page came out, a fake Facebook account with my biological name was placed on the internet and began to place comments on our business Facebook page. Once again, only Ernest Del Casal knew that I was Kurt's stepson. Only Ernest would have known where to find my name change, to find my legal name, to then comment on said Facebook page.
You know, let's say accusing someone of creating fake accounts. Let's suppose for a moment that's not true.
Objection, Your Honor. It's already calling for a hypothetical.
As it finishes hypothetical, so let me hear the whole hypothetical before you.
If you, Mr. Harris, were accused of creating fake accounts, how would you feel?
Objection, Your Honor. It calls for a hypothetical. It's an improper question.
Calls for a hypothetical, but counsel, what's the basis? You're asking this gentleman how he would feel if someone accuses him of making a
Right.
fake account? What's the relevance about how he would feel?
I'll move on. Let me phrase it this way, accusing someone of fake accounts is a significant accusation, correct?
Yes.
How about accusing someone of vandalism? Is that a significant accusation?
Could be.
How about having alter egos? Is that a significant accusation?
Where are you going with this, sir?
Just answer the question.
Okay. Yes, could be.
There was one exhibit that you were showing yesterday, I think it said honest Casal, I believe it looked like it was an advertisement.
Correct.
Is that what it was? Can you tell me how you found that advertisement?
Mr. Del Casal gave that to me in the office.
What, was it a piece of paper? Tell me more about the advertisement.
It was a newspaper article of his auto lot listing. He explained to me that that this was an old auto car lot that he ran previous to operating equal rights, and would repeat his slogan, the walking man's friend. I remember him, there's something that went with that, and he would repeat that. He shared that with me, he told me to send it to my dad. What I find ironic is that the initials of Honest J. Castle, or JC, are all part of alter egos that were used in this smear campaign against our business.
Do you have those alter egos or any document of that in that regard?
There's a Yelp ad for JC.
Do you have it with you?
I don't have it sitting in front of me. I don't know, it might be one of the exhibits. There's also there's also the newspaper ad. I was also witness to Ernest running a Facebook page in the office for James Dean. I would watch him log into that account and then use that account to comment negatively on other people. That James Dean account even has pictures of Ernest with a guy in a clown mask, connecting him to that account.
Do you have any copy of this document?
I don't have my computer in front of me, sir.
I just objected to the question, Your Honor. If the counsel wants to give him a copy, I'm sure he can.
He's already asked the question, he's already answered it, counsel.
Understood, Your Honor.
I'm going on to the testimony that you provided here today in transit. I believe that was from yesterday.
Okay.
You mentioned about your business license or for the Equal Rights for Rose Fathers, and how, can you elaborate how there was something surprising to you regarding getting a business license? Can you?
There wasn't anything surprising about getting a business license. The surprising was that he removed the business license, and by some miracle, the city was knocking on my door the next day.
Do you remember, and that was, when was the time frame of this?
February 2016.
So how long ago was that after you allegedly purchased the business? Was it almost 2 years after?
No, I think it was a year and some change. I don't know exactly.
So you're
I
saying.
didn't sign the purchase agreement, I wasn't there. I didn't put my date next to my name signature on the business purchase.
So
I
equal
can't
rights
tell you
were,
for sure.
okay. So equal rights for Rose Fathers, or you did not obtain a business license when you purchased the business?
Mr. Harris has a business license that hangs in his office. It's his business.
Right. Did
There was a
you-
business license.
Right, when you purchased, or your father purchased a business, did he obtain a business license at that point
Objection, Your Honor, it's been asked and answered.
Okay, hold on, a business license for which business?
for equal rights for Rose Fathers?
Okay, that's the
I'm-
question that's pending.
The objection, may we approach, Your Honor?
Approach. Go ahead, counsel, ask your question.
I apologize if there's any lack of clarity in my question. I'm trying to be as clear as possible.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate
Let me
that.
see if, so let me try to go a little slower and clear. When your father purchased equal rights for Rose Fathers, did he obtain a business license at that, when he purchased it?
No, there was a business license hanging in the building that was Mr. Del Casal's.
Thank you. Mr. Harris, I believe you mentioned you discovered some fake reviews after Mr. Del Casal left the business.
Mhm.
And were there any other fake reviews against equal rights for his fathers, let's say after your father purchased the business? And after he purchased the business?
In what time frame?
After your father
Referring-
purchased equal rights for his
Okay,
fathers?
yes.
Did you see any fake, not fake, any negative reviews?
Are you referring to the first year that I was there?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, one in specific, Taylor Carr, gentleman, Mr. Del Casal, ran out of the building.
Was there any others, so you could recall one?
One in specific, if you'd like, I can pull up the Google listing and see if there's more.
So, is there still some negative reviews that exist on Google and Yelp?
Of course there are, but some of them are fake reviews that I couldn't get removed. Liana S. is one that I can specifically think of that mirrors language from Ernest Bar complaint as well. And I actually looked her up, and she is friends with Mr. Del Casal on Facebook.
Are you aware if there's any documentation of that in this case?
I am not sure. If you'd like to show it to me, I'd be happy to look at it. Do you have an exhibit to show me?
Do you know if you print that document out?
Did I print it out
Right,
personally?
yes.
No, not today. I also don't think Yelp's going anywhere, so it's still there.
Sir, just listen to the question.
Sorry.
Can you mention the name of that review of that person?
I'm gonna object, Your Honor, it's
I
irrelevant at
didn't
this
hear,
point.
I wanted to write the name.
I just want to write the name down, Counselor.
Well, I understand, but it's irrelevant to why we're here.
I just want to write the name down.
A negative review is irrelevant to why we're
A
here.
negative
Yeah.
review against Mr. Del Casal has nothing to do with this lawsuit.
Understood, Counsel, I'm allowing that. Go ahead, the name of the
I just
individual.
want to write the name of the person down.
Go ahead, Counsel.
That
The
left
first
the
one?
neg- The one that you said left the negative review, I believe?
Sorry, which one? Taylor Carr or Liana S.?
Right, I'll write them both down. Thank you.
Of course, absolutely. Just be careful, that thing may spill all over you.
may disclose to witnesses to show him some reviews.
Go ahead.
I'm just gonna
Go to
object,
counsel first.
just objecting, Your Honor. He's gonna show some documents that he's not disclosed in this litigation.
I don't plan on.
It's irrelevant and shouldn't be shown to this witness. He's gonna ask him questions about him.
What's the purpose of showing it to this witness?
Refresh his memory as to the negative reviews, and he made a statement that it goes into the point that he said there was some reviews against the business after Mr. Del Casal left.
Okay, so you want him to review these documents to refresh his recollection as to what question? Because there's not a question pending right now that would need to be refreshed.
Maybe he's already answered it. Let me just follow up on the question and clarify
Okay.
that. Mr. Harris, were there negative reviews after your father purchased the business and after Mr. Del Casal left, between that time frame?
Yes.
And do you consider them all fake?
Not all of them,
So
90%. Because if you remember,
Sir, you already answered that question.
Yep.
you were, Mr. Harris, you mentioned about when you first saw this website that was shown on the screen a moment ago that we reviewed with the one with that you found that you believe Michael Franklin created?
I didn't ever say that I believe Michael Franklin created it. I said he posted it.
Okay, well,
There's a big difference.
yeah, I'm trying to go back, I want to ask you some questions on that. You said you had a website, a different domain name at that time?
We still do it, 702dads.com.
When did you acquire that domain name, if you recall?
It took us a few months to build the website. Me and my brother built the website after we took over. I don't remember exactly.
You had that 702dads.com prior to seeing the website that we're talking about today.
To my recollection, yes.
How about March 2018? Does that sound fair?
I can't remember.
You had mentioned some wording in earlier, you believe Mr. Dalton said 33 years or 85,000 fathers. Do you remember that?
I do.
Are you aware that that's exists in other places, that same number?
Objection, Your Honor.
It's a question if he's
Hold on.
aware.
Hold on, let me listen to the objection, Counselor.
This was, this assumes facts not in evidence.
Okay, that's your objection. That's sustained. Lay the foundation for it, Counselor.
I'm just asking, have you seen this number in other places? You mentioned it was Mr. Del Casal is the only person who uses this 85,000, correct?
Yeah, to my recollection, he's the only one that I ever heard talk about 33 years of being the founder and director of Equal Rights, helping 85,000 fathers. These are all terms that I frequently witnessed him use and often.
You know, we had disclosed a public record, it's actually a court document that we disclosed, and I'd like to show that to the
When was
witness.
it disclosed, Counselor?
Recently disclosed. It wasn't.
It wasn't done during the discovery time?
No.
Denied.
Okay. You had mentioned that the word stepson, and you referred to that in this website. I believe you said that that word or phrase exists in the bar complaint.
Other terms did. I can't recall if stepson is there or not.
Okay,
But what I did say is that stepson would have only been known by him.
Did you know if you said it was in the bar complaint?
I don't remember.
I have another question.
Counselor,
Hey, Judge. So, Mr. Harris,
Good morning, Ms. Anderson.
I want to just mention one thing you said yesterday. You said that you had seen Mr. Franklin come into the office and he had been talking with Mr. Del Casal and he did Mr. Del Casal's website and that he offered you a website and you objected. That struck me as interesting because this morning you said that Mr. Franklin has never come into the office when you've been there, which is true.
Let me help clarify that for you. He
No,
never
sir,
come into
that's
the
my
office. I
question.
said take over
Ma'am, you
management.
asked a question, you don't dictate how he answers. He gets to answer the question as he wishes. Go ahead and answer your question. If you think it's unresponsive, you can move to strike. Go ahead and answer the question, sir.
Okay, so once again, let me clarify if that was not clear to you. Because I did state it very clearly that I was witness to Mr. Franklin come in the first year that I was there while Ernest was still operating the business. And that after that point in time, he was no longer a client and I did not see him after that.
But are you contradicting yourself when you said this morning, quote unquote, that Mr. Franklin never came into the office while I was there?
No.
Tell us about these fake reviews. Can you give us an example of one of the fake reviews that you saw?
Absolutely. I'll start with JC on Yelp. It stated that we were no longer a father's rights organization, that we were out to get men and fathers, and that the, if I remember correctly, I think it made mention of the previous owner no longer being there.
So is that an opinion or is it a fact?
Well, reviews are all opinions, Ms.
Okay.
Anderson.
Let's look at the website that you talked about. You said that there it was all false. Do you have a copy of it?
Can you refer me to the exhibit, please, ma'am?
I have it as my exhibit E. What do you have it as? This is the website you talked about.
I'm sorry, exhibit what?
I have it as exhibit E.
E for the defense, we have, what we've been giving counsel so far that have been looked at and moved into evidence are plaintiff's proposed exhibits. Are you talking about now a defense proposed exhibit?
That's correct.
Defense proposed exhibit E.
Here's the website.
It's duplicate with number 2, Your Honor.
So it's the same as your plaintiff's number 2.
Yes.
Okay, so it's plaintiff's number 2, which has been stipulated into evidence. Now, looking at exhibit 2, Mr. Harris.
Correct. Thank
Okay,
you.
now let's ask the questions based upon exhibit number 2 that has been admitted into evidence.
Could you tell us, I think you testified as to, said that part of this is untrue. Could you point out what part of it is untrue?
Objection, Your Honor. Those have been asked and answered.
Okay.
We went through it.
I went through it, let's allow him to do it basically based upon this. If you put your case, let's go ahead and do hers. What part of it, sir, when it could be repetitive, that you believe is untrue?
First and foremost, I will start with page 1, 2.001. Learn the truth about the new equal rights for divorced fathers. It's
Why
not
is that
true.
untrue?
Why is that untrue? Okay.
No, I'm talking about the part you just read.
Why is that untrue? Because this states that it's the truth. I work there, I operate that office, I'm well aware of the operations of the office, and I know it to not be true based off of the actual true and correct operations of the office.
So you were not the only one operating the office. Mr. Del Casal was also there, correct?
For the first year.
Okay.
This was published after he left.
So how do you
So
know
this would
that?
only then pertain to after he left.
How do you know that, sir?
Well, why would somebody post?
Are you asking him how he knows when
How
it
do
was
you know that
published?
that was posted, that was about after he left and not before?
Counselor, the date's on the review.
The point is that if you look at the document, Judge, it says that there was before and after information in that document.
But you asked him, based upon this review,
Yes.
when it was published, when this review was published.
Let me rephrase my question,
Okay.
Judge, thank you. Based on that document, do you know whether it discussed things that happened before Mr. Del Casal left or and after, or just before, just after he left?
It would be just after, because it's talking about the new equal rights for divorced fathers, and it lists the employees at that time. My father, myself, Scott, and George. No, why would anybody post something about themselves that happened from before? Why would I talk bad about myself?
Okay, so tell us what you say in that thing is untrue.
Okay, I'll start with page 2, exhibit 2-003, about halfway down the page, the paragraph begins over 85,000 fathers. The last sentence says that no father was ever turned away due to money issues. That is absolutely false. I have witnessed Ernest turn people away because they couldn't pay for memberships. He would send them off to Emily, send them to self-help centers. That is absolutely not true.
So where you talking about no fathers, this on page 2?
Yes,
On
no,
page
sorry,
3,
exhibit 2,
hold on,
page 3.
2003, the third paragraph, starting over 85,000 fathers were assisted. It ends with the statement, no father was ever turned away due to money issues. This witness is saying that statement is not true. Next question, Counselor.
How do you know that they were turned away for money issues?
Counsel, he just answered that. He said he personally witnessed it. He personally witnessed it. That's how he knows, Counselor.
What did you personally witness?
I personally witnessed men and fathers who were not able to pay memberships get turned away for not being able to pay for memberships.
Were they turned away not for membership but for because they couldn't pay for service?
Pay for memberships, pay for service, what's the difference? You have to pay to get help.
Wasn't there a separate fee for the legal services that they were getting?
Well, it doesn't say for service in here, it says for money issues. So it's claiming that we turn people away for money issues. I watched Ernest turn people away for money issues.
What else is not true in this?
Okay, one of the things that talks about weekly meetings being terminated, Ernest terminated those long before I took over, long before I even entered the building. That's 2-003, number 1.
How did you know that they were terminated before you entered the building?
Ma'am, I just answered the question. I worked there for a year and they had been terminated prior to me even starting working there.
So how do you know they were terminated before you started working there?
When I was 14 years old, I went to one of the Tuesday night meetings. When I came, when I was 25, the meetings were gone. So yes, I knew that meetings were terminated.
Do you know when they were terminated?
Not exactly, no. But I didn't do them. More than one free attorney consultation. I hand out those attorney consultations on a daily basis and in numbers of 2 or 4. So I know that is not true. One more thing that I point out in here that Ernest loved to talk about was that he established supervised visitation programs and the first self-help forums and unbundled law. Those are all things that Ernest loved to tell people.
Were those true?
I don't know, I wasn't there, ma'am.
So you're not saying that that's false?
No, but because I'm reading through the document, it's something else that's come up. It talks about ERDF's involvement in litigation and in removing judges, and that come to an abrupt halt after 33 years. That's also not true.
How do you know?
We stay I am the manager of Equal Rights for Divorced Fathers. I work there 5 days a week, 2 weeks a year. I am very aware of what the operations are in the office, so I will now explain why I know that to not be true. After I took over, we have continued to stay very involved with the judges, improving relationships with those judges exponentially, and also letting the fathers know which judges tend to not be as favorable to fathers. When it comes time to election time, we still have people call in asking for information about those judges, which we happily give. So I would say that's not true.
That's what you're giving these people, what your opinion about these judges, wasn't it?
What's that?
Objection, Your Honor.
What you were giving, what you were telling these people about these judges and them not being favorable or they're unfavorable and which are good judges for fathers, that was an opinion, wasn't it?
Objection, Your Honor. It's
Hold on, the question, counsel, the question is, in this statement, it says that all of these activities came to an abrupt halt. One of those activities was very involved in removing of inferior judges. He just stated when people would call them up during election time periods, they would give their opinion as to judges who should not be reelected. whether it's an opinion or not, the statement is ERDF became very involved in removing of inferior judges. The next statement says all of these activities came to an abrupt halt. He just testified that they continue to do those activities. Whether it's an opinion or not, it's his opinion as the manager of this business that they continued, did not abruptly halt, but continued their activity in regards to that paragraph. That's all he's saying,
I
Councilman.
withdraw the question, Judge.
Thank you.
Would you like me to continue
No.
to say?
No, sir.
It's been withdrawn.
How many employees were in the office that you were supervising?
Today or when I
No,
took over?
when you were there.
Before- Yeah, let's do it in time frame. Before you took over, that year that you were working, how many employees were there, to your understanding?
Before the year that I took over, counting myself, there were 6, counting myself.
The year after you took over, beginning that time period, for 1 year, what was the employee status as far as how many members?
People that worked in the office, 4.
Okay.
I am, 4,
And as of today,
3.
next question.
Were they lawyers?
I'm sorry.
Were there any of those lawyers?
Yes,
Who was?
Mr. Harris is the oversight attorney.
Did he have another office?
Correct.
So he had another office, do you know where that was located?
Yes, Board of Patching Man.
And so you were the person in the office regularly?
Yes, ma'am.
And the other persons in the office, what were their qualifications?
Same qualifications as mine, ma'am. We're all
What is that?
legal assistants under Mr. Harris's supervision.
And they were all legalists. How were they paid?
I'm sorry?
How were the people in the office paid?
Just gonna object, Your Honor, it goes beyond the scope of my direct.
All allowed is regards to whether there's changes at the department, because they were talking about cash payments and bonuses and everything else. As of today, you're talking, Counselor, or what are we talking, period, are we talking?
I'm talking about at the time that he took over.
Okay, so when you took over starting at January 2nd, did you change the way in which these paralegals and legal assistants were paid?
They immediately signed an independent contractor agreement, and they are paid based off their daily performance.
They paid off their
Daily performance.
performance.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you explain what that means?
The documents that they draft each day.
So the document that they drafted,
Mhm.
and they were drafting documents,
Correct, ma'am.
and they were not lawyers.
No, ma'am, but they are under Mr. Harris's supervision.
What kind of documents did they draft?
Your typical legal documents for family court, ma'am.
What are those?
Complaints, motions, some discovery, things like that. But once again, all under the supervision of Mr. Harris, Mr. Splita.
You mentioned that you were their employer. I think in your testimony you said that these were your employees. Were they your employees?
No, ma'am, they're Mr. Harris's employees.
Were these people given W-2s?
No, ma'am, they're independent contractors. They all have independent contractor agreements.
You
I
do?
am given a W-2.
And what was your salary this past year?
Just gonna object, Your Honor. It's-
Counsel, you already said $25 an hour. This is not a discovery deposition, Counsel. This is a trial. What questions do you have for this gentleman that are relevant to this case?
Could you explain how you calculated the number of hours or that you said you spent on reviewing quote-unquote negative reviews?
I'm just gonna object, it's been asked and answered, Your Honor.
I'll allow clarification of questions on what you asked. The statement was that he spent approximately 2 hours per week, 52 weeks a year. Go ahead and just clarify, give us an understanding as to how you came up with that 2 hours, basically.
Okay, so part of my daily process, just so the jury is aware of how I came up with that number, I came in Monday mornings, did some inbox stuff, and then immediately turned to searching out reviews. I would start with Monday mornings at that time, leading up until until this year, so 2016 through 2021, my day started at roughly 9:15 to 9:30 a.m. 8:15 to 8:30 a.m. We opened at 9. I would immediately start looking through the internet. I would start, it was the same process. After I had gotten used to it, I followed the same process. I would start with Facebook. I would go to our Facebook page. I would check reviews on Facebook. I would then look at other online posting pages that Mr. Del Casal was administrator of, Family Court News, Nevada Court Watchers, a few other web pages that he was either an administrator or frequently posted on to check and make sure that there wasn't anything there, and there always was, but I didn't have control over those. And then I would move on to Yelp, and I would go through Yelp, and I would check the Yelp ads, and then I would go to Google, and I would go through the same process every Monday. And then if there were ever negative reviews, I would flag it. I would write the email explaining why I believed it to be a negative review, and then I would submit that to whoever it was, Facebook, Yelp, Google, whatever it may be. I then had to wait for the responses to see what the responses were. Sometimes it required more information on my end. Sometimes I would get notifications that it had been removed. And it just depended. And collectively, that probably accumulated somewhere between right around 2 hours every week.
And when did you start doing that?
When did I start doing that? January of 2016.
And your father bought the office in 24. Do you know when this advertising was put up, the website was put up?
Which website now?
The website that you talked about, that
The
Mr. Franklin
website,
put
to my
up,
knowledge, was posted in September of 2018.
2018?
Yes.
So you started looking at websites in 2016 to look
Correct.
for negative reviews?
To deal with negative reviews previous to
And
this,
you
yes.
were there any negative reviews between 2016 and 2018?
Yes, ma'am, I think I've answered that question. There were many negative reviews between 2016 and 2018.
Were you able to tell whether there were any negative reviews that were generated specifically because of this website?
Because of the website? Was the website the cause for the negative reviews?
Yes.
I have no way of telling that. I can say that the language mirrored the website.
When did Arturo leave?
I don't recall. If I had to take an estimate, I would say
That's
roughly
okay.
2020.
Thank you. Do the people who work at the office, these independent contractors, do they type their own documents?
They draft documents that are submitted and reviewed.
And who typed them?
They did.
There was no secretary there?
I'm the office manager, so you can call me a secretary, you
How
can
come
call
calling
me,
a secretary, asking was there a secretary there?
I'm the secretary, ma'am.
And you also notarized all those documents that they prepared?
Until it was no longer required.
I have no further questions.
Redirect, counsel.
I have no redirect.
Any questions from the jury? Thank you, sir. You may be excused. Counsel's approach. Counsel, call your next witness.
Your Honor, this time we call Scott Caterer.
Ladies and gentlemen, what my intention is Mr. Cater will be testifying for a few minutes until about 5 till the hour, then we'll let you guys break for lunch. I know you guys came a little bit later, but as you know, my staff started early this morning.
You do solemnly swear the testimony that you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
That's right.
All right, please state and spell your first and last name for the record, please.
Scott Caterer, SCOTTCATER.
Let's see, Mr. Caterer, council, is he going to be utilizing any of these exhibits?
Perhaps.
Okay. There's a page that's apparently that's loose, that's out for some reason. If you approach council, make sure.
Yeah,
Go ahead and move that. Move it to the, thank you. Council, your witness.
Good morning, Scott, how are you today?
Good morning, how are you?
Let's see. What's your occupation?
I am a legal assistant for your office through Equal Rights for Divorce Fathers.
How long have you done that?
I initially started there in September of 2005 and continued on once you acquired the establishment.
And what type of work do you do?
I interviewed men and fathers involved in actions for divorce, custody, child support. Talk with them about steps, procedures of assisting with them with their needs, given their circumstances, as well as preparing up and drafting any legal documents they may need.
Do you ever have an opportunity to work with me?
Daily.
And how would you describe our working relationship?
Good, good. I mean, I can get a hold of you, calls, text, phone. Have you come in the office every so often, obviously, as well, too.
You send me emails?
Definitely. And you send me emails as well, too, regarding your cases and steps and policies.
You previously worked under defendant Del Casal, is that correct?
Correct.
And how long did you work for him?
Approximately 10 years until you took over, 2005 to, you took over in 2015, right? I can't remember the exact date.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And you, been any changes after I took over?
Office-wise, yeah, it was night and day. It was definitely a lot more professional. Under Mr. Del Casal, it was more of a clubhouse atmosphere than anything else, as opposed to more of a professional office staff.
After I took over, were there some rule changes or policy changes or changes that occurred?
Work-wise, not too often, no. I can't recall anything. It was a lot more relaxed, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
It wasn't as stressful, obviously. So.
why was it stressful beforehand?
Under Mr. Del Casal, there was always a lot of tension there, was never any certainty as to what was going to happen, and a lot of confusions there in the behavior, and if there was going to be yelling or anything like that, and that doesn't happen at this time now, since you took over.
Were you a witness to arguments, anger, outbursts?
Almost daily.
And do you know if anyone in the office before I took over, any customer was ever turned away because they didn't have any money?
Yes, that happened very frequently. One of the things with regards to the differences in the office is under Ernest, there would be a membership, and you would have to pay a membership, a monthly membership, and then we always had to make certain that these were checked and updated. And if there was no membership paid, there wasn't any work. If a client had X amount of dollars just for the membership, then we'd say, well, another time you may come back and then do your work.
Do you know if you were insured?
No, I had no insurance.
Okay. Do you know if you're insured by me?
Yeah, I believe so.
And do you know if prior to my taking over that, how many fathers, you have an estimate of how many fathers were helped by that business prior to my taking over?
Prior to,
Yes.
There was a lot. It was a great fast amount of men that came through.
Do you know who would have that number?
I would not, I would say Ernest.
Have you ever heard the number 85,000?
Off of that publication, that website and everything. I would not have the exact numbers on that, but yeah, from that website.
Do you have where did that number come from, do you believe, on that publication that you referenced?
The only thing I could come up with is that is Ernest that did it. If I recall right, 2 years ago when he had his meetings, he had a pamphlet he would sell to potential clients or visitors. And there may have been literature in there regarding, you know, the amount of people that he helped.
Prior to my taking over, were you permitted to take time off?
It was very much frowned upon, and there had to be an emergency. If I were to take time off, and that was rare, if it always occurred on the weekend, I would try to plan it so I would only have like 1 day loss. Even when I took a trip out of town, or I had work done medically.
Did you have to pay Defendant Del Casal for the time you wanted to take off?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So you would actually pay for not working?
Yes, I would.
That was a requirement of Defendant
It
Del
was
Casal?
expected of me to maintain my space, as it were, there, my rental space, as it were.
And you did that for approximately 10 years?
Yes.
You had an opportunity to review this publication for which we're here for.
Yes,
And you were referenced in that publication, is that correct?
by name.
Council's brought up and you've not had the opportunity. Does that reference to you hurt your feelings?
It's embarrassing as it is personally. To have it posted on there is disgusting.
Is that something that you were glad that it was taken off the air?
Yeah, very much.
Do you know how that we found out about it?
Cam discovered it, and he informed me about it.
That caused, I guess, a setback in the office or any damages that you are able to observe?
There had been, at that point in time when we saw that, there had been equally that as well as other nasty commentaries as well too about the establishment, bad reviews.
I'm just gonna ask you a couple other things about your work environment. Do you have all the resources you need to do your job?
Yes.
And who do you report to?
I report to Cam Harris
Okay.
and to you.
Any questions about who you report to? Any questions about, I guess, the rules of the office or the operation?
No, no. And if I did, I have that door to go to talk.
Can you tell me what a skirt alert is?
Skirt alert, when I was working there, there's the main office, and my desk was right by the front door. One of my tasks was to do what is known as a skirt alert, whereas basically if a lady were to approach, I was to buffer the lady to ensure that she did not enter the establishment. And again, this was the mentality of the men's only club thing. If a gentleman, for example, came in with his sister or his mother, I would have to stop and say, I'm very sorry, this is a private organization just for men and fathers. However, if there's a restaurant, if you'd like to wait just around the corner, you can do that. Sir, come on in. That was basically, I have that memorized, that's how much I did it.
Did that go away?
After you took over, yes, that stopped immediately.
Were you glad?
Yes.
And is that an embarrassing procedure for you?
I thought, obviously, it shows the level of unprofessionalism, and yeah, I always kind of thought it was stupid. And in the back of my mind too, I always thought there was a potential lawsuit possible as well too for discriminatory actions.
Were you kind of the designated skirt alert person?
I was told to, and had I missed one, I would catch all sorts of blah, blah, blah. I would be yelled at and disciplined.
Now, do you recall when you first learned about this website?
The date, no, I don't.
Okay. And how, you found out about it from Cam?
Correct.
Okay. And do you know how Cam found out about it?
I don't, I do recall though that the finding of it occurred 8 months, if that, after the bar complaint as well too, with the language from Mr. Del Casal, so it occurred just afterwards.
You're aware of that bar complaint?
Yes, I
Are we made aware of that?
am. Again, to, that was brought to my attention through Cam, and I guess that was given to you, so.
Do you have an opinion who the author of that website is?
Ernest
Why do you have that opinion?
Ernest knows the particulars of me as well as the staff there, the intimacies. I don't appreciate the commentaries about the chain smoking or the toothlessness. He knows those things
So, would anybody else know those things?
outside of the staff now.
I believe you also said you were an alcoholic.
Yes. Forgot to mention that I'd also been in recovery as well too. I've been in AA since May 19th, 1995.
Were there any terms used in the publication that gave you any other indication that the author was defendant Del Casal?
It was derogatory, and he's used similar statements and tactics in the past against others as well. He gets grudges, and he goes for attack mode. And seeing the language there and the coincidence of everything, plus him, again, the attacks against me personally and my own little stuff. He
How's
knew
your-
those things.
How was your relationship with him? Did you think you were friends, or?
I did what was expected of me. I did not try to create waves. If he told me to jump, I jumped. If he told me to do this, I did that. He even, at a point in time, there was added expanded roles that just kind of fell at my feet.
How's your working relationship with Cam?
Good, open, very friendly, very friendly.
Quite a change?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, even when the plan had exploded and all, and I was a little bit nervous and everything, I was able to have a heart-to-heart talk with him. And he was very comforting, very kind. So,
And did you see how he was referred to in that publication?
the stepson.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, a derogatory thing, and once Cam had first started after you acquired the place and all, there was very little interaction with Ernest and Cam. It was very cool. So there was a lot of respect for him.
For who?
From Ernest to Cam.
I know why that was.
I don't.
Did you, I guess as one who knows Cam and the situation, did you take that as a derogatory term?
It was just a cheap shot.
Did you know that defendant Del Casal to do anything like that with any other individuals online or in person?
Attorneys, yes. There would be attacks against attorneys once he found out or discovered that they had been representing women. And references or referrals were stopped. There was attacks done against judges. Even had, during election periods, he would have a radio show at community college. And you would have people out there and make commentaries about that.
Did you ever know him to use any aliases or alter egos or other names?
I don't myself, no.
And did he ever indicate to you that he was doing any of these attacks online against these other individuals?
I mean, outside of, like for campaign type stuff?
Yeah.
Right. Outside of campaign stuff, no.
Do you know Michael Franklin?
Vaguely, yeah.
How do you know him?
He had come into the office to help Ernest do computer work, his website. He would hire Franklin to make postings
Did you have any interactions with him ever?
outside of staying high, no.
Do you know if he knows anything at all about you?
To my knowledge, no.
Can you explain why he would publish this publication and reference you when he knows nothing of you?
No, and my name is difficult enough to pronounce and spell anyways, I don't know how he would know me, so.
He's indicated that these things he said about you, or at least his counsel did yesterday in cross-examination, are matters of his opinion about you. Does he have any basis whatsoever to make that opinion of you?
My relations with him were cordial only. Hi, hello, how are you? There was never any intimate discussions or anything like that. Certainly didn't know anything about any of my dental work. Or that I was in recovery.
Do you, you've had an opportunity to consider the publication as a whole. How would you characterize it? True, false? What are your thoughts?
Just malign. Trying to take characterizations and trying to use it for attack. That's it. And again, I think he was doing this just out of spite against you and us. My only thought is because he thinks that the place is being run differently in its vengeance.
And did he ask you to go with him when he left?
We talked about it, but I wanted to stay with you. So I thought he was gonna retire anyways. He had even suggested he was gonna be retiring, so I thought that was it.
Council, this is a good place to stop.
It is, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our recess for the afternoon for lunch. During this recess, you're admonished not to talk or converse among yourselves with anyone else, and instead to connect this trial or read, watch, or listen to any report of or commentary on the trial or any person connect this trial by any media information, including without limitation, newspaper, television, radio, or the internet, or a form or express any opinion on any subject connect this trial if the case is finally submitted to you. You're not to do any experiments or investigations regarding matters raised in this trial, nor are you to post on any social media forums about the trial or attempt to investigate anything you heard in this trial using any form of social media or the internet. We will see you guys back here at 1:15. Councils, Mr. Hirsch, after this gentleman's done, that's fine. Who else do you have planned?
We have Oliver Melgar
Okay,
and George Boyer. And then it would be me, Your Honor.
okay, okay. Where are we at on jury instructions, councils?
I,
You guys been conferred and gotten stipulated ones and non-stipulated ones?
I submitted them some time ago. I got no response whatsoever, Your Honor. I put them over there about 2 weeks ago.
Okay, councils, I suggest you guys got some homework. You guys need to sit down with the parties and sit down with co-counsel and get a set of stipulated jury instructions proposed by plaintiff or proposed by defendant. I want those done by the end of the day. Before you guys retire for your evening, whenever that is, make sure you have them done, because more than likely, we're gonna be meeting tomorrow at lunch and finalizing it.
I think to facilitate, I think the general ones are, pretty much match,
I would imagine that's, let's
Yeah,
get,
right.
you guys get together.
Okay.
Give me a stipulated group, means agrees that you agree upon. Plaintiff's proposed, that's not agreed to. Defense proposed, then we argue about those, put them on the record.
Just for the record, Michael Franklin's counsel filed some jury instructions yesterday proposed,
Okay.
and I filed a small set of just special ones, I think 5 or 6 today.
Okay.
So we've got them all, everybody submitted proposed jury instructions.
Right, but what needs to come to me is the ones that you guys stipulate to and the ones you can't stipulate to. But we do those in chambers and we put them on the record. We'll
Okay.
be doing that probably tomorrow at lunch. Thank you guys, see you back here after lunch. Thank you, Your Honor.